speak on anything, we need you to fill out one of these green cards, and now's the time. So, anybody want to speak on something, fill out a green card, and we need it pronto. Okay, with that, you'll call the roll, please, sir.
Chairman Latour,
Here.
Vice Chairman Stebbins,
Here.
Commissioner Barry,
Here.
Commissioner Brock,
Here.
Commissioner Bynum,
Here.
Commissioner Hamilton, Commissioner Hart,
Here.
Commissioner Haynes,
Here.
Commissioner Rahman,
Here.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner Vogel.
Here.
It appears we have a quorum and are eligible to conduct business.
Thank you, sir. You've been provided with the minutes. Would there be a motion they be approved?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes of the, what meeting was that?
Last.
The last Planning Commission meeting with all staff comments and conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the minutes, please raise your hand. Thank you. And now we'll go to the consent agenda, and we have items 1, 8, and 13 go to regular. 1, 8, and 13.
The consent agenda for the Little Rock Planning Commission subdivision agenda, November 21st, 2019. Consent withdrawal, item C, file Z-9207-A, Lawson Road, mini storage revised, short form PDC, located east of 13008 Lawson Road. A request to withdraw this item without prejudice was received by staff on November 7, 2019. Staff recommends approval of the withdrawal request. Item 7, file Z-4027-B, Rawls, short form PDR, located at 7217 Ohio Street. A request to withdraw this item without prejudice was received by staff on November 7, 2019. Staff recommends approval of the withdrawal request. The consent deferral items, item A, file S-1859, Quick Trip Site Plan Review, located southwest of the intersection of Bass Pro Parkway and Otter Creek Road. The applicant did not provide a complete set of revisions or responses to sufficiently address the subdivision committee comments. Staff recommends deferral of this item to the January 9, 2020 meeting. Item B, file Z-7667-A, the Highway 10 Business Park, revised short form PCD, located at 14410 Cantrell Road. Staff has been made aware of a site access concerns needing to be resolved and requests a deferral to the January 9, 2020 meeting. Item 11, file Z-9466, Canis Office Building, short form PCD, located at 17201 Canis Road. On November 7, 2019, a deferral of this item to the January 9, 2020 meeting was requested by the applicant. Staff recommends approval of the deferral request. Item 12, file Z-9467, Artist Place 2019, short form PRD, located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Rock Street and East 10th Street. The Historic District Commission must approve a certificate of appropriateness for this development. This matter is scheduled to be considered by the Historic District Commission on December 9, 2019. The applicant did not provide revision or responses to the subdivision committee comments by November 6, 2019. However, any changes necessitated by the certificate of appropriate approval process and comments will be addressed in order for the item to be considered by the Planning Commission at the January 9, 2020 meeting. Staff recommends deferral of this item to the January 9, 2020 meeting. Consent approval items. Item number 2, file S-867-E9, the Blake at Chenal Valley site plan review, located east of Rawling Road between Kirk Road and Pebble Beach Drive. Staff recommends approval of the site plan subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Staff also recommends approval of the variances to allow slopes exceeding a 3-to-1 ratio in the area west of the proposed access drive adjacent to the existing detention pond. Also to construct a sidewalk only on the east side of the access drive private street, and for the retaining walls to have no offset or curved sections. Item 3, file S-1346-A, the Calvary Baptist Church sign revised site plan review located at 5700 Cantrell Road. Staff recommends approval of the revision to the site plan to allow the proposed new ground-mounted sign subject to compliance with the following conditions. Condition 1, compliance with the city-adopted guidelines for operation of an electronic message board sign. 2, the proposed sign must be equipped with a photocell sensor that is programmed to reduce the brightness of the sign at dusk to a lower level for nighttime operation. And 3, there is to be no other ground-mounted sign on the property. Item 4, file S-1865, 7700 Scott Hamilton Drive site plan review located at 7700 Scott Hamilton Drive. Staff recommends approval of the site plan subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F of the agenda staff report. Item 6, file Z-3437-A, 10724 West Markham Street, short form PCD, located at 10724 West Markham Street. Staff recommends approval of the PCD subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Staff also recommends approval of the variance to allow the driveways to West Markham and Shackelford Road as proposed. Item 9, file Z-5873-C, the Peacock Apartments short form PRD located at 101-103 South Park Street. Staff recommends approval of the PRD subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the analysis in the agenda staff report. Staff recommends approval of the variance to reduce the landscape buffers and to allow parking to back into a public right-of-way. Staff also recommends a variance to allow the parking lot to be constructed in conformance with accepted best management practices for low-impact development, or to be paved with either concrete or asphalt. Item 10, file Z-9465, A.J. Williams, short form PDR, located at 1804 Rice Street. Staff recommends approval of the PDR subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. And that completes the consent agenda.
Okay, you've heard the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda, including all staff comments and conditions.
And is there a second? Second. Moved and second. If you're in favor of the consent agenda, please raise your hand. Anybody opposed? Consent agenda is approved by consent. And let's go to the regular agenda. If you'll start us out with item 1, please. If your item was on consent agenda, you're free to go.
Yes. Item 1 is the file number S-1265-A. It is Lot 2R, University and 65th Street addition, site plan review and preliminary plat. Bluefin Development is the proposed developer. This is a property of about 1.66 acres at the northwest corner of South University Avenue and Heineman Park Way. Currently, this site is home to a bank building. The applicant is seeking to redevelop the site with a convenience store with gas pumps. Additional property closer toward Mableville Pike would also be added to the property containing the bank building to provide space for this new development, as well as to provide continued access to Mableville Pike. Would approve both a site plan for the redevelopment and a preliminary plat combining these two parcels into a single lot. The proposed development is a convenience store with gas pumps under a detached canopy. The existing driveways are proposed to be maintained, and then the site would also the driveway accessing Mableville Drive would be through a shared driveway with an adjacent lot. With that, the applicant is seeking two variances to this just one variance with this request. To allow for the driveway spacing. It does not meet the driveway spacing in the city ordinance, but in order to maintain the existing driveways, they're requesting this variance. Staff is is recommending approval of this request and also approval of the variance request to keep the driveways as they are currently configured.
Thank you. We have one card in opposition pardon me. Each side gets up to 20 minutes, and would the applicant care to go first or wait and hear the...
With staff approval, we'll just as soon go ahead and yield our time initially and find out whatever the issues are.
Very good. Troy Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Little Rock Planning Commission, planning staff, and visitors. We talked about this at Southwest Little Rock United for Progress quite a bit. And I don't think there was anybody there that supported it. The applicant was not there either. And I couldn't make the motion because I was sitting in the chair that night. So I couldn't get a motion made for this. But it sounds like that they've got too many driveways coming in there, and if you go through that intersection very often, you know that it's a problem, especially on that side, getting it out of there. I did not see any signs on the property saying it was coming before the Planning Commission. And with that, no signs, did not come to the meeting, which nothing says they have to, but they're really not very interested in getting it approved. Oops, that's not me. And, they just don't show much interest in getting it done. Everybody says that we do not need another convenience store with gas pumps in that area. So I would ask that you disallow this project.
Thank you, sir. To the applicant.
My name is Tim Daters. I'm a consultant engineer with White Daters and Associates. Our client on this is Bluefin Development. They've developed a series of convenience stores across central Arkansas. It's approximately a 50 by 100 foot convenience store with attached canopy for gas pumps. And because that is considered as a multiple building site, then we are here at site plan review in addition to the preliminary plat. This originally was a bank site. We're using all the same three driveways that the bank used when they operated a bank site at this location. One onto University, one onto 65th, and then a shared driveway over onto Mableville Pike. We are going to be improving Mableville Pike to Collector Street standards and adding sidewalk on Mableville Pike. We're extending the sidewalk on 65th so that we can build a handicap ramp out into the island. This is a property is zoned C3 and C4, and we meant no disrespect by not going to Little Rock South, Little Rock United for Progress, Troy. It just slipped under the radar. But the site is zoned correctly. We have complied with staff's requirements, and we would ask for your approval of this site plan and preliminary plan.
Thank you. Any discussion, commissioners? Questions, comments? If not, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve as submitted with staff comments.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded that would be approved with all staff comments. If you're in favor of this, raise your hand. If you're opposed, not. It's approved.
Thank you.
Item 5, am I correct, would be next.
Item 5, file Z-1002-C, the Cantrell Tunnel Wash revised short form PCD at 7706, 7708 Cantrell Road. The developer is Reese Commercial. This property is a revised PCD. This initial PCD was, the most recent PCD was approved last year, which allowed for the tunnel car wash to be constructed. There are some changes that under this proposal that I would point out that the major one of those would be the proposed demolition of the residential structure on the site, on the eastern portion of the site, which would allow for the drive to shift over to the east. This proposal would also grade that site, bring it up to grade, and would require retaining walls to be placed on the north and the east side of the property, significantly with there. Then also the tunnel, the wash is slightly larger. There's been some reconfiguration, relocation to the dumpster location on this site, and also a few more vacuum stations would be added under this proposal. Also with this request, there are several variances that have been requested. To note for them, there is a variance requested regarding the retaining walls. They are proposed to be terraced. The requirement is for there to be a 1 foot horizontal grade or horizontal level for each 1 foot change in the vertical. They are proposing just an 8 foot in between the two walls on there. Staff recommends approval of that variance request. Also regarding the retaining walls, they're also proposing to not provide any offset as is required for retaining walls that exceed 200 feet in length without such a change in the to vary those. A third request would be regarding dedication of additional right-of-way for Cantrell Road. Staff is recommending approval of that as the recent improvements have been done to Cantrell Road. Also, there would be, because of the change of use for the property adjacent to Manny Road, there would be a requirement for dedication of additional right-of-way. For that, staff is recommending waiving that requirement to require the additional right-of-way. Similarly, along Manny Road, there would be a requirement for half-street improvements. Staff is recommending that the only improvements that would be required to Manny Road would be for the curb located at the north end of the property for a new curb to match that curb to be installed the length of this property. There would not be a requirement for a sidewalk along that section of Manny Road. And lastly, the driveway width for the south drive that is shown there, that we would request that it be no wider than 28 feet. Currently, the plan is for it to be 36 feet in 3 lanes. So staff does recommend overall approval of the new PCD, the revised PCD, subject to compliance with paragraphs D, E, and F, the staff analysis, as well as those variances as I just laid out.
Thank you. Would the applicant care to talk about the project?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my name is Frank Reagans. I'm with Craft and Toll Engineers here in Little Rock. I'm here today with the applicant, John Reese and John Aaron Reese. They will be the developer and owner of this particular business, as they are a number of businesses, commercial businesses and developments here in Little Rock. As Mr. Koenig described, this site would be for a commercial car wash. The variances that we are requesting, we have worked through a number of those with the staff, and they have, as they described, support our variance requests on all of them except for the driveway width. The driveway width is one that we feel is very important to the operations of this particular facility for 2 reasons. One being that from time to time there is a large semi-trailer truck that accesses this site to deliver materials to this particular business. Our understanding is, as you may know, there are a number of driveways like this along Cantrell, and the reason they exist is because from time to time at those particular businesses, tractor trailers have to access those sites as well. And having just 2 lanes makes it very difficult for the tractor trailer to swing in there, particularly if there is traffic there on the site. The second reason is that it is anticipated that this particular business will generate or handle 1,156 cars a day in year 5. That's a good number of vehicles that will be processed through the car wash. And the very nature of this business is to keep traffic moving. The more traffic they keep moving, the better the business will be. The fear is that if there is just a single lane egressing at that particular driveway, if someone pulls up there, wants to turn left, is delayed, then traffic starts to back up behind them. The west driveway is egress only, and that is for those folks who are coming out of the tunnel that don't want to go to the vacuum station. They exit out right out onto Cantrell. And so for those 2 reasons that we feel that are very essential to the very nature and operation of this business, we are asking for a 36-foot wide driveway, a lane dedicated for right out, a single lane dedicated to right in, and then a left turn lane. And so I certainly would appreciate your consideration for this request. Thank you.
Thank you for having us today, and I'm John Reese. And what Frank said was right. I just want to mention something on the drive. We have a shopping center out there on Cantrell Road at the present time called Pinnacle Station Shopping Center. It's where Senior Tequila is, and also Paragon Pharmacy, T-Mobile. And we've got several restaurants and other businesses in that particular shopping center. And our drive right there actually has 3 lanes. We have one that would turn left, one turn to right, and then of course one coming in. And in that location, we haven't had any problem whatsoever. I mean, they didn't. When we came before y'all 10 years ago, this was not required. We asked for that type of exit, and they allowed that to happen. And we've really been I'm so fortunate that we got it approved at that time, because it hasn't given us or I think the city any problems. I don't think we've had any accidents by someone stopping there. And so that type of turning has not been a problem for us. And we know that happens throughout the city of Little Rock. So we really don't think it will be a problem. And then also, if you saw the picture of that truck that would have coming in, I mean, them turning in like that, and that, as you know, Cantrell Road, lots of traffic.
Could you pass the picture around? I haven't seen it.
Yeah. And that particular truck, they deliver from Missouri, and they come in once every couple of weeks. And so they come in, and and if they're coming in and trying to get in our site, and and they're having people back up and do all these maneuvers to try to get in, and with all the traffic coming, I mean, I think it would cause a lot more problems not giving us that extra 8 feet, which, if we didn't need it, then we certainly wouldn't be here asking for it. But we'd certainly appreciate your help. And with all the cars, one thing that car washes have to have is good in and good out, because if they have to come in there and they have to wait, then that's not good at all. They just won't come back. So it's really vital for us to have that, or we would certainly say, well, that's fine. We'll just go with it the way the staff recommend. And we appreciate all the staff has done to try to help us, by the way. They've been very helpful. Thank you. Oh, I think what Alex was saying is that we might take 2 votes. One vote would be for just the approval of everything except the driveway, and then, or if everybody, and then a vote on the driveway, or however you want to. That's what they had said they might recommend. So,
Which would you prefer?
I just soon have both of them and get it done.
You got it.
So,
Staff, is there any elaboration you care to give us on the justification for the driveway?
If Mr. Hood could address those particular issues.
Thank you, Chairman, staff. There's a ton of variances here, and we've tried to support every one of them. We're down to just a driveway width, which seems like a minor thing. But let me just give you a little perspective of where we're coming from. Back some years ago, the state spent a lot of money to widen this road and put in a center turn lane here. And the reason was the incredible number of crashes from turn movements in and out of driveways. People were stopping to make turn movements, getting rear-ended. People trying to get out of driveways were getting creamed with traffic on the existing right-of-way, and they spent millions of dollars, including the city made a substantial contribution out of their funds towards making sure this happened and this corridor got improved to enhance safety. And part of the early findings was rear-end crashes were a problem, and the proliferation of driveways all up and down here with people trying to get in and out of all the businesses. I don't believe, and staff doesn't believe, including our traffic engineering staff, that it's appropriate to allow a 36-foot wide, or 39-foot, it was originally proposed in the drawing, driveway for a car wash, and have people side by side struggling to get out. It decreases their visibility. With a car next to you, can't see the other direction. Nobody's getting out any quicker. It's just a matter of trying to control and limit the access to single points that are widely spaced to enhance safety on the site. Now, certainly I understand there's a concern big trucks got to get in and out. I'd just like to point out we've got car washes all over town that have small driveways, and somehow they get their deliveries. And we are just a little bit concerned about such a very large commercial driveway right here on Cantrell Road, where so much money was spent trying to enhance safety and keep things kind of narrow and keep things a little safer, enhance visibility, enhance turn movements. John mentioned Pinnacle Station, and he's right. You can look all over town and see 36-foot driveways at these big establishments, restaurants, lots of businesses, big traffic volumes. I don't know that that's a great example of a driveway, since that is in one of the, it's kind of dangerous with it offset to other intersections, makes it difficult to get in and out of there. But there certainly is routinely approved 36-foot driveways at other locations. In this instance, they've got one egress directly out of the wash tunnel, and we think one there is appropriate to enhance visibility. And they can still get a truck in and out of a 28-foot driveway. Thank you. That's all I have.
I have one little engineering question. It looks like on this map that you if I want to get my car washed, that I take a right there where he's got the cursor, then I come around and I go through the tunnel,
Correct.
and I come out, and then I go out this, what I'd call the west. Huh?
You can.
Why then would I want to, and any errors you've got show that whoever these people are also going out, they're going out the left exit. Why would somebody come from the gate, in essence, and come down to where he's got the cursor in? I mean, where do they come from to go that way?
Well, yes.
This way not being a geographical term. But.
Right, Mr. Chairman, the idea being that if you came out of the tunnel, there on the west end, you would loop around, come into the vacuum station, leaving there, then you would go through those gates.
Why couldn't I just go back out the west entrance?
But because there's a conflict in traffic there, if traffic then, if you're coming out of that parking lot, going out to that west egress, that west driveway, there's a conflict in those traffic movements coming out of the vacuum area. You're crossing over traffic coming out of the tunnel, and so there could be a conflict there. Is what we're saying.
Okay. Commissioner Stebbins had a question, and then
Commissioner Berry first.
okay, Commissioner Berry.
Yeah, I just want to add my perspective to Mike Hood's perspective. I go around the corner from the tunnel here is Edwards Food Giant. I've gone shopping there several times a week for my elderly mother, and I've gone out probably about 3 or 4 of the different entrances and exits of that, and those are only 2 lane. I've seen the semis getting in there and out. It seems to be a safer way. That stretch of Cantrell is a really dicey. I say it's hazardous for those coming in and out. I can't support the variance for that.
I'll have to agree with Commissioner Berry. I believe the Shipley's is in the shopping center right to the left or to the west of that. And I've met my daughter there several times and tried to get out in the morning to come back downtown, turning left, and it was very treacherous and very dangerous. So I agree. I don't think I can. I think it's a great development, but I can't support the variance on the driveway.
Right. You know, and I think our question would be a couple of things I want to address. Mr. Hood was saying, certainly appreciate what he was saying. You know, this development actually closes several curb cuts along there, and I would think it would be an overall improvement to the traffic movements coming in and off of this particular site. The second thing is that, you know, again, our understanding is that there have been 3-lane driveways allowed on Cantrell. If safety is the paramount issue here, why were those allowed? To start with, were they allowed to accommodate a semi-tractor trailer truck? That's our understanding. But if safety is indeed the paramount consideration here, then why were those approved at all? And if a 2-lane works, then why weren't those driveways then? Why are they not 2-lane as well? So that's a question that we have that we would like to pose.
Any other commissioners have a question or comment? Go ahead, John.
Well, I know we also have a shopping center on Bowman Road, and it's called Bowman Heights Shopping Center, and it's over between Markham and Chenal. And we have Tuesday morning in that shopping center, and they try to come in, and it seems like about once every 2 or 3 weeks, they've got an 18-wheeler that comes in there. And last time was about a month ago, they ran over our RPZ. They ran over all our flowers. They threw big rocks out in the middle of the street. Talk about dangerous. That's dangerous. When you have a semi trying to go into a 24-foot wide or 26-foot wide, that's dangerous. And also when you have to try to stop a semi on the street, and you've got cars coming up and they're trying to dodge around it, that's also dangerous. So you can say one thing is dangerous, but you can also say the other is just as dangerous as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, the easy in and easy out, I don't see how that's going to be. You know, if make it easier for a big truck like that to turn and go to the right, and people to get out quicker.
How many trucks go in there a week?
Well, not, just on trucks, probably 200 or 300. Well, be 200 or 300, I'm sure. Trucks.
Semi-trailers go in?
Not semi-trailers. You said trucks. I just said no. I'm not semis.
Your driveway's premised on trucks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll wash trucks,
The
but
ones
not
you sent around, the
semis.
picture you sent around, how many of those are likely to come in here in a week?
Well, like on that one right there, I know for certain that's going to be once every 2 weeks. That's going to come in. That one will be coming in, and then we'll have other Bob trucks and stuff coming in also.
Excuse me, Commissioner Thomas.
Okay.
What are the business hours, the operating hours of the car wash?
I'm John Reese Jr., his son. I just want to get up here and speak to you, and I'll answer your question. Our hours will be like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 8 p.m., depending on time of the year.
Is it possible to arrange for your deliveries outside of your business hours?
No, ma'am. That comes from Missouri. I would like to talk a little bit more about the issues here. The exit of the tunnel, we have this west drive. It's going to help a little bit, but it's not going to help that much because it only fits like 1 or 2 cars. Once 1 or 2 cars gets in that right-hand turn lane, if people are waiting to behind that car, in that where the mouse is, we'll have to put a sign basically to say, if this lane is full, keep moving, basically. And if the car stops there, then the whole tunnel backs up, and then it creates the biggest log jam in the world. It just backs up all the way through. We send a car through that tunnel every about 30 seconds. And so we have to keep these cars moving. We have to. This is, if we don't have this third lane, these 8 feet that we're talking about, it's going to be a huge detriment to my company. I'm going to be dealing with it every day. And I just don't see how we can continue with this project if we don't get this, because having 2 or 3 cars in that left-hand turn lane are going to help us so much, because we'll have 2 ways to the right. Where is it? It's in Little Rock. It's almost, when is it ever fun to turn left across traffic? Even if there's 2 lanes, it's never fun. It's never fun. So people are going to have to turn left no matter what. Adding this lane will help relieve some of that pressure at the entrance. And it is, I can't stress to you how important it is. The previous site was half as big as this one. We're putting in twice as money. The building's twice as big. We're going to have twice as many cars. The other guys, they were just going to build it and sell it to someone. They didn't care. But I'm building and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to run it, and I'm going to be there every day. It's very, very important that we're talking about this 8 feet that I see all over town. I didn't even know, before this came up, I didn't even know that this was a deal. I was like, I see this everywhere. Why are we having trouble? People always, if you have trouble turning left, then turn right. Go down the road, turn around, do whatever you need to do. I've never had a situation, and if I can't see because the car is in the left-hand turn lane, if I can't see and I can't nudge up and look around, then maybe I'll just wait a little bit longer. But people figure that out. And I know I seem a little tense here, but this means a lot to me. My heart is pumping because I have to get this done. And I really appreciate y'all very seriously considering this, because this is life or death with me. I mean, I know that's a little serious, but I mean, it's I can't stress to y'all the importance, because I literally have, this is my business. It's very important with the amount of traffic and the traffic flow. It will help tremendously. I actually had 2 full entrances in and 2 full entrances out on my first plan that we tried to get through, because having only one entrance in was a detriment to my business. So now I have only one entrance in, which I can totally understand. But please seriously consider approving this. And if you have any more technical questions, love to try to answer them. But like I said, you know, there's many instances around the city where, you know, it's just like this. If people have trouble turning left, then turn right and then go down the road and hit a stoplight and figure out your way back. But this would help us tremendously to relieve pressure at that point of the intersection. If people, a lot of the people are going to get vacuums, so they'll have to get vacuums, and they will not be able to travel west back on that west drive. So that little exit over there is a right out exit. It's only going to be used by a small portion of people. And it's not a very long drive, so not many people can start stacking there. So anyone that gets vacuums will have to take the other exit. And then you have all the other cars that will have to be passing by that west entrance to get to the exit if there's a car at the west entrance. So it just would really appreciate y'all's consideration in approving this 8-foot wide variance into my drive. Is there any other questions?
Commissioner?
John, you guys own the car wash that's similar off of Schnall, correct?
Yes, sir.
Does that have?
We have 2 full entrances in and 2 full entrances out, and it is tremendous. Okay. And I don't see how I could do it without, because my stack is very limited right now. So it's very paramount that we have the 2 that are coming out, because we have 2 in, 2 coming in, 2 coming out.
Yeah, this is mostly for staff. In the other instances, they mentioned that elsewhere on Cantrell Road, there was either by variance or just by right, there were 36-foot entrances. Can you help me understand whether that was by variance or if you even know?
Not knowing the history of the individual sites, I can't answer that.
Okay. Are there, I guess in this area, are there any circumstances where you would consider the requested variance?
I don't know, Mike, can you answer that?
In this stretch of Cantrell right here where I spoke earlier about the improvements, most of that was put in by the Highway Department. That was a result of their negotiations for right-of-way. So I can't speak to what they decided. It wasn't an item that came before the commission or the Little Rock staff. Certainly today, though, we've got a site plan. We're asked to look at it. And that's the staff recommendation, that under the circumstances, considering safety and volume and the nature of this site and this business, with just the car wash, not a lot of other stuff around it using a single driveway, we think that the recommendation we've made is appropriate.
So other question, I guess following up on that, how many other variances are involved in this project besides this particular one?
Well, there was, the walls are set, the retaining walls are set closer together than they normally would to allow for a dense screening of vegetation to grow to kind of hide the walls behind the business. And then there was waivers of right-of-way dedication on Cantrell and the side street. And help me. I think that was about it. No sidewalk.
Yeah, no sidewalk, no deviation in the length of the wall, no offsets.
Oh,
in the
yeah,
wall.
to aesthetics for the wall are variances also.
So I guess what I'm driving at is at some point, is it a concept in your office that if there are enough variances or deviations requested, it becomes a non-conforming use? Like what they're asking you to do simply isn't appropriate for that particular area?
Well, certainly you get to that point. We're comfortable with supporting the variances that we did decide to support as far as appropriate for that particular site. You know, for example, the side road to the east is now a dead-end road, and so it doesn't serve a great purpose to go improve that. and behind there, there's not a high visibility at the rear of the site for those retaining walls, but we are giving up some of the aesthetics that would normally be required with that.
Question for Mr. Hood, if I could please, Mr. Chairman.
Do what now?
I have a question for Mr. Hood, if I could please. Mike, this particular variance, particular request is being couched.
Speaking to Mike.
Okay, this particular variance request is being packaged as a variance. Is the restriction to a 26-foot driveway, is it a codicil in the zoning code? Is it codified where a variance is required, or is it just a consideration? Is it variances are to set aside?
You're asking if there's specific code language that limits the size of the driveway.
That's correct. In that, my understanding of when we ask for a variance, it's to set aside a code. And I was just asking if this is a code that we are asking a variance on, or are we just asking for a consideration, I guess?
So they can have 36.
This for Mike Hood. So I listened to your argument, and I think it's a fine argument. But so first of all, if you're going to develop or redevelop along Cantrell Road, you're going to have inevitably variances. You got terrain issues. You got, as I'm looking at the site now, I think there was a little burger place there, and there are like 6 curb cuts along Cantrell. If you just start adding them up with the different businesses that are there now. So we're actually going from a maximum number of curb cuts, or pretty much open. It almost looks open to access Cantrell to 2. But I'm just trying to figure out if his entrance and exit, the main entrance and exit to, I guess, the east, if you're going to allow traffic in and traffic to turn to the right and to the left, you're not proposing that it be right out only, right?
No, we're not.
Okay. So if you're going to allow that, how is it useful to trap his customers on site rather than let them out into traffic on Cantrell? I mean, because I think if you just put the one lane there, his customers have to stay on the site longer, right? You're nodding your head, but that makes sense to me. So how are we benefiting the development and traffic and safety by sort of trapping his people on site?
Well, I want you all to vote your conscience. Sometimes the staff's going to make a recommendation. Sometimes you're all going to vote against staff's recommendation. That's okay. I disagree with the characterization that we've trapped them. They've got 2 one-way in and 2 exits out. Those folks can get out of there when they're done. We're just worried about having a dual exit side by side in a 36-foot commercial driveway on a stretch of road that carries well over 30,000 vehicles a day and has a history of a lot of accidents. We just think we've made an appropriate recommendation. Now,
Did not the traffic department make the recommendation also?
they did. They did. It come from our traffic operations department, traffic engineering department. Frank asked, Mr. Riggins here asked about, is this really a variance or what? Well, this is a site plan review, and they can get a drive. Staff can approve a driveway up to 36 feet, and that includes the commission can grant a driveway up to 36 feet in width. That is allowed.
But it says it must not exceed 36 feet.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for the developers. If y'all don't receive this variance, will your project not go forward?
That's a good question. That's a great question. We would love
Let
to.
me help you out. Maybe the intelligent way to do this is to vote on the project, not the variance. Vote on the project.
Well,
Case in point, I'm for the project.
right, and I am too.
I
obviously.
disagree with you. I disagree with you on the driveway, and that's
Right.
at which time you'd have the decision of whether you want to go or no go. That's
Yeah, right.
if you want to do it that way.
Well, we're trying to push through. We're trying to improve the area. Obviously,
We got
we're
that.
we're building on a cliff, Billy Goat Cliff over there, and we're there's going to be a lot of money riding on this development, and it's so important. I just wish y'all could understand the importance of it, because it's not like we're turning away the left-hand turn lane. Like Todd said, the left-hand turn lane will still be there. It will still be there, and people will ride up to the lane and still turn left, because at the Mississippi and Cantrell intersection, there will be a red light, and then there will be like 3 or 4 or however many cars turn left. Okay, so we do have that stoplight that's helping us with the left-hand turns, and then the openings that are normal during any kind of traffic situation.
Mr. Reed, sometimes you can overtalk the thing.
Yes, sir.
I think we got the gist.
Okay.
And I would note to staff, the clock wasn't running, so I don't know, but it's time to vote on the thing. Now, I guess my personal comment is, I love Senor Tequila. I pull out of there and I'm in the left lane. I can't see for the right car, and it scares me to death. And personally, I'm 8 feet away from you having a great project, but that's just me. So, if it's okay with you, we will vote on the project excluding the driveway variance. Is that good? Is there a motion to that effect?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we vote on item 8 separately, one for the project overall and one for the variance, one vote for the variance on the driveway.
Is there a second? Second. Are you okay with it, the approach? All in favor of the project excluding the variance, raise your hand. The staff recommendation on the variance is 28 feet.
Mr. Chairman, were there any no votes on that item?
Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody opposed? Well, I didn't see any.
Okay.
Nobody opposed.
There was no one opposed, but I think you said item 5, and it's, yeah.
It's 5, correct.
Yeah.
Vote was on item 5, not item 8.
Okay. Your request on the variance is 36, and the staff is 28. The recommendation that's before us is 28. So that should be the motion. No?
I would think there should be a motion to approve the driveway as proposed by the applicant.
Okay, that's same different.
I'll make that motion if you're looking for one. I would make the motion that we approve the variance that as submitted by the applicant for the 36-foot.
36, so it's 36 we're voting on. There's a motion, is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded. If you're in favor of the variance as requested by the applicant at 36 feet, raise your hand. Almost. 1, 2, did you get a count?
I count 3 ayes.
Okay, if you're opposed to the 36 feet. 1.
Okay. So the proposal for the 36-foot wide driveway fails.
Correct.
Yes.
But does that give him, is he okay at 28?
28 is what he has. That's what was recommended by staff. He requested 36 and you denied that request. The item is a PCD. It will be going to the board of directors.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Can I have my paper back, please?
Item,
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your thoughts, and hopefully I'll be going through this wash if we can get it done
hope you do too.
soon. Thank you.
Item 8.
Item 8, the Pineda Callejas short form PCD file Z-4320-A at 9811 Mableville Main Street. Jessica Pineda Callejas is the developer of this project. This is an existing auto repair facility which has been at this location for a number of years. This proposal would be to rezone from the current R2 to a PCD for it to operate as a tire shop. There would be no structural changes made to the building. Currently, the site is, as I mentioned, developed with a building, and site has some associated concrete pavement with that. The applicant also indicated that the existing building, again, reiterated the site would not have any additional development on there. There would be no additional signage associated with the application. They would just reface the existing signage on the property. There would be no outdoor storage requested with this development, and also there would be some additional right-of-way which would be dedicated with the approval of this project. Staff does recommend approval of the PCD subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in the paragraphs D, E, and F of the staff analysis. The staff report, and also the staff analysis in the agenda staff report.
Okay, would the applicant care to say anything or defer? And here we have one objector.
Hello, everyone. Well, we pretty much want to do the tire shop like Mr. Alex said. We're not trying to do any kind of changes on the building itself. All we want to do is bring our business to the Mableville area. We noticed that they don't have any tire shops around that area. We would like to work with the Mableville people and help them with the tire shop. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Troy Leahy, come on up.
I'm glad I didn't get in on that car wash business. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Little Rock Planning Commission and the staff, my name's Troy Leahy. I was in the chair on Southwest Little Rock United for Progress when we discussed this. There wasn't anybody that spoke for it. The applicant was not there, so we had no input from them. I've talked to several different people in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood people are pretty well split on this. Now, they did not, in addition to not coming to the meeting, they did not have it signed up saying it's being rezoned or anything like that. And I think that's pretty important that they have it signed, because people just driving by would know that it's been considered for rezoning. Now, out of the people that talked about this, one group says, we don't have any problem with putting it in because we know when they stack those tires up there too high, they got them piled up everywhere, that we can call code enforcement and they will straighten that out. Now, the other group of people is that we don't want them out there to even start getting the tires stacked up. And the last time I drove by there, and that's a pretty busy little intersection there, four-way stop at Mableville Main Street and Sardis Road. I did not see a sign about it being rezoned, and there was a large pile of tires there by the building. I think they were on some kind of a trailer and all. And I know that it's a real problem getting rid of or getting shut of or disposing of used tires. That's the reason the woods are full of them. and you get out in southwest and all the way over into Saline County. We've done some development in both counties, and be surprised to dig up old towers that are bound to have been 20 years old or more. So we would recommend that you deny this application. And wait a minute, one other thing. Does he have an additional right-of-way for the width of Main Street? I have not seen the site plan or anything like that. Public Works, you require an additional right-of-way?
Yes, there was 45 feet of right-of-way required to be dedicated from the center line of Mableville, Maine. So I'm not exactly recalling what that additional number, what that number was.
Mableville, Maine is an 80-foot right-of-way street. So that would make it just 5 foot. Well, if you go an additional 45, then it's going to be considerably. That'll be almost back to his building.
Mr. Chairman, while we're addressing the issue of the right-of-way, this property is a non-conforming auto repair business. The Humphreys family has had it for years and years. Very well-kept property. It has for years been very well maintained. Under this application, the property will be brought into compliance with zoning. It's currently zoned single-family residential. It's grandfathered into the city. Under this PCD zoning, the zoning would be addressed. The use is being limited to a tire shop. We have proposed a condition that there be no outside storage of tires. If they want to keep tires within an enclosed trailer or within the building, we would be fine with that, but there'd be no outside storage of tires and no working on vehicles outside of the building. If it's approved, those are conditions that are easily enforced by our code enforcement staff. If that does occur, it would be a violation of the zoning, and we could easily handle that. But I do want folks to be assured that under this zoning, the conditions would be in place that there would be no outside storage of tires, no working on vehicles outside of the building.
Thank you. Where are we on this question?
The question about the right-of-way.
So the answer to the right-of-way question was the request was made for 45 feet to be dedicated from the center line, whatever that distance might end up being. The survey that we got with the application did not have the dimensions on that survey. So there would be the requirement would be for 45 feet from the center line to the new property line. Secondly, for Sardis Road or 3rd Street, that would be required to dedicate a 30-foot from the center line for additional right-of-way for that street. And then lastly, a 20-foot radial dedication of right-of-way required at the intersection of Mableville, Maine and Sardis Road.
Pass on that directly across Mableville, Main Street, there is an automobile repair shop over there. It's in operation now. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant care to address any of that?
About the signage that we have, the sign that says that we're considering rezoning, we do have it. We have it on the building. Probably it's not too visible. We could change it, but we have it in the window outside for people to see it. We do have it right there. Last night it got wet, so we had to put it to dry, but it's been there. It's been in the window. From the building in the middle, it's right there. About the tires, we used to have our tire shop in Conway. Now we do have the tires that are disposable, like we have to get rid of them. We can't go every day and get rid of them to the city, so we have to keep them on the trailer, and we have to have a certain amount, and once we collect the amount that we need to take it to the waste tire, that's what we do. That's the only reason we have the tires out there, but we don't have any tires that would stay there for a long time. We do keep the tires that we have for sale. We have them, they're not visible from the outside, so they won't be able to see any of those tires. And like I said, the only tires that we do have outside, it's the ones that we're trying to get rid of and dispose. But we have to have a certain amount piled in so we can take them out and dispose for them. But we can do, we can try and do something about it if that is an issue.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, any questions or comments? Hearing none, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 8 with all staff comments and conditions.
Is there a second? Second. Moved and seconded for approval. If you're in favor, raise your hand. If you disapprove, if you vote no, raise your hand. Thank you. Approved. Lastly, item 13. I don't know if you want to read much before we do it, or she just, Kathleen Olson just said she had a question.
I think that's probably the direction we need to go, Mr. Chairman. This was presented at your last meeting in response to comments and questions that were raised at the last meeting. There were some changes made in the proposed bylaws that you have before you today. I think the appropriate way to go would be if you, as commissioners, have questions about any of the items, or if there's someone present who has a question about specific items, then we will try to address those.
Let's call on the citizen first.
Kathleen Olson, Legal Women Voters of Pulaski County. The question I have is this. I do think it would be appropriate, if nothing else, just to mention the several changes that are being made. But what I particularly wanted to address you on is a clear understanding of how citizens can address and the rules for citizens addressing this board. When the chair started the meeting, he said, if anybody wants to fill in or anybody wants to talk, fill in a card or forever hold your peace, kind of like. So does that mean that if anybody wants to discuss anything with this board, that they must be here before 4 o'clock, or they cannot address any item, and particularly regular items? I know there's been an adjustment to what's on the consent agenda, but if you have a regular item on this agenda, if you do not fill out a card before 4 o'clock, does that mean as a citizen you do not have the opportunity to talk to this board?
Mr. Chair, my understanding is it's the 4 o'clock is not written into the bylaws. It's also at the discretion of the chair during a regular item if there's a rebuttal requested. It's usually not entertained, but the chair has the discretion if it's material. So it's not closed out completely. Okay.
So the card that you all had indicated earlier, that this says consent agenda card, that green card, is that the title on it now?
That's for any comment. Any comment on any item. For instance, there were no items 1, 8, and 13 were on consent, but there was a card, somebody wanted to speak on it, so we pulled them off.
Correct. Okay. But I think the attorney said that, Mr. Overton said that it says consent agenda card. Is that what it says? I don't have the green card in front of me.
You filled it out.
I know. I don't have it in front of me to say that.
That's correct. We titled them different. I think when we last met, there was some huge confusion about the title of the card. So Jamie, as secretary, and I discussed it, and we called it agenda item communication card. Because that's basically what it is. You're wanting to speak on an agenda item. If there's a better name for it, y'all certainly have the right to choose that name. And so that's up to the chair and the planning commission as to what y'all want to call them, but we're calling them right now agenda item cards.
Okay, so what I guess I want to make sure of is that a citizen, if they know that there are a lot of items on the agenda, that they can come here, and if they arrived at 5 o'clock and wanted to talk about item 13, they still have the opportunity to turn in a card and talk. No. You're saying no?
No, correct.
So I'm sorry, but
Why
what
would
you
you come
want,
at 5 o'clock for a 4 o'clock meeting?
because I have a job and I cannot leave, but I feel very strongly about whatever the issue is, or it's affecting my life, my next door neighbor, down the street. And as a citizen, I would love to be able to say something, but I cannot leave my job, but I can be here for 5 o'clock, but I cannot be here for 4 o'clock.
And that, using your example, what if we approved it at 4:45 and you come in at 5? What happens?
That happened. I'm sorry. But what you're saying is that, if there's a car accident on my way here and I get stuck in traffic and I'm 5 minutes late, I cannot even talk to you.
There was a car accident and I'm sorry, and you'd probably go away with it. But the other flip of the coin is, somebody has an item and it's like item 3 and it's on consent, but they don't show up till 5:15 because, I got busy or whatever.
Well,
there's a happy medium.
I totally understand. If it's on the consent agenda and you all have gone through the consent agenda and you have voted on it, that's the procedures. It's over with. Okay? But what you're doing is limiting the citizens of this city being able to come and talk to you about an issue. If you are cutting them off by not allowing to speak, if they're not here by 4 o'clock. And I know you're saying there's some discretion, but it sounds like there wasn't any today.
Well, that's up to the chair. Staff, you have a interpretation of that, don't you?
I think we have an acceptable answer to that.
Right.
And what we're talking about is, if you want to look, it's Article 5, Conduct of Business. If you look on the A1, Section A1, it says must. And then if you go down to B1, there's some language in there that says shall. What we can do is change that mandatory language to like should, and then put in some discretionary language saying that the chairman, if an item didn't make the consent agenda, it's still open for communication. You can accept a green card. The only question about that is they'll be giving it to the secretary instead of you, so they're not interfering with the other people that are doing the presentation. Is that okay? Is that everyone's understanding?
He'd probably pass it down.
I think that addresses the issue. It doesn't, it eliminates the mandatory nature of shall. It says should. The idea is that we try to encourage people to get the cards in, and then we'll allow, or not allow, but put in there, make it clear that the chairman has discretion to accept cards throughout the meeting.
On those items that are
on those items that remain on the agenda.
That are on the regular agenda, not the consent or any, that's proper procedure.
Yeah, because
and
we
that is your
certainly do not
procedure.
want to limit anyone's ability to address the commission. What we want to try to eliminate is the mass confusion of people up and down and cards flying back and forth, and try to have some decorum to how the cards are submitted to the chair.
Right. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is that is the rule at the city board. If they don't turn their card in before the meeting is gavelled, they don't get to speak. So I think it's important for citizens to have the opportunity to address all the bodies that are voting on issues that they're dealing with. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Just for the record, that's what we had modeled ours after, was the board of directors in regards to that. But you certainly have the discretionary authority to change it.
So we can still vote on it, and you're making those changes, the shalls and must.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Should and could, or whatever they are. Good. All right, with those changes in staff, is there any other comments from anybody on the bylaws?
Is Article 7, the heading, is that spelled correctly?
What is 7?
Oh, non-discrimination.
What is it?
It's just non-discrimination with an E instead of an I.
The typo.
Just a type. Yeah, if we're going to change them, we might as well change them.
Well, it's misspelled for one thing.
Chairman, just to make it clear for the record, I want to go through what we're going to change for that. So it's going to be Article 5, Section A1, Chairman announces all agenda item communication cards should be submitted prior to roll call. And then we're going to change Article B1. Chairman announces all agenda item communication cards should be submitted prior to roll call. And then we're going to put in some discretionary language allowing you the authority to accept those items that are on the regular agenda, accept cards so they can speak.
Except what?
Those items that are on the regular agenda, if there are people that want to speak to it that have come in late, can submit a card to the secretary and we'll pass it to you. Okay, thank you. And then we're going to correct the spelling of non-discrimination.
And I have one more question.
Any other comments?
One more question. And the secretary of the commission, when talking about substantial changes to an application are not allowed, but they're at the discretion of the secretary of the commission, and that is the director of the Department of Planning and Development, correct?
That's the way Jamie had drafted it. Quite frankly, I had some questions about that. I didn't know if the chair wanted that discretion. I didn't know if the secretary wanted it. I didn't know if I thought I should be the one to make that determination. That may be something y'all want to discuss.
Any other questions, comments? If not, a motion to approve the bylaws as amended just now to take care of the comments. Motion would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of item 13, the bylaws for the Planning Commission, including all changes made here today.
There a second? It is seconded. If you're in favor of the bylaw changes, raise your hand. If you're not, raise your hand. One againer. Are any other citizen communication? Going once, going twice. Okay, thank you for coming. We adjourn.